I noticed something small today. Not what I found, but what wasn't said. He chose to keep it to himself. He used to tell me everything without thinking. Small stories would fill the space between us. Now there are quiet gaps I don't recognize. I'm not upset about it, just trying to understand where I was not there. It feels like I missed something I didn't see happen. At first, I told myself this is just part of growing up. Children change and space becomes normal. But something about this feels different. He didn't become distant all at once. He just started choosing what to keep inside. And somehow, I was no longer part of everything. My name is Clara, and I've always believed home should feel safe. A place where children don't need to filter their thoughts. At least, that's how I used to understand it. That morning felt like any other. I prepared breakfast while he sat quietly at the table. Nothing seemed out of place, and I didn't question it. I noticed his bag slightly open. There was a folded piece of paper inside. I saw it, but I let it pass without thinking much. The day moved forward as usual. Chores filled my hands, but not my mind. There was always something quietly running in the background. In the afternoon, I saw the paper again. It had slipped out of his bag onto the floor. This time I picked it up without rushing. It was a drawing. It showed him, and something he never mentioned. I realized I didn't know this part of his world. I tried to remember the last time he shared something real. Not just small answers, but something deeper. I couldn't find a clear moment. That was when it settled in quietly. Maybe this didn't start today. Maybe I was just late in seeing it. I sat quietly, with the paper in my hands. It wasn't the drawing that stayed with me. It was the silence around why he never showed it. I've always told him to be honest with me, to share even the smallest things, but I wonder if I've been open enough to receive them. There were moments when he started speaking, and I answered while doing something else. Maybe he felt that distance more than I realized. I never meant to pull away from him. I was just trying to keep up with everything. Some days felt heavier than I admitted. But children don't see the reasons behind things. They only feel how we respond, and that feeling tends to stay with them. Every time he wasn't fully heard, something small may have shifted. Not all at once, but enough to change his choices. Maybe silence started to feel safer. These things didn't happen all at once. They built quietly over time. I didn't notice when it began. And now I'm here holding something he kept to himself, realizing this didn't start today. It just quietly became our normal. That night, I tried to ask him something simple. I kept my tone steady like any other day. I didn't want him to feel anything unusual. I asked about his day at school. The question felt familiar, almost automatic, but I found myself waiting more carefully. He answered briefly, just enough to respond. There was no story following his words. The conversation ended before it could begin. I thought about asking more, about the drawing I found earlier, but the words stayed where they were. I didn't want it to feel like questioning him, or make him guard himself around me, so I chose to let it pass. But the silence didn't feel light. It stayed with me longer than I expected, like something unfinished. For the first time, I noticed a small distance. Not something visible, but something I could feel. It made me pause longer than usual. It wasn't that he had changed suddenly. It felt more like I was slowly losing my way into his world, and I didn't know when it started. It didn't happen all at once. Small moments repeated quietly over time. I start to see how patterns form without being noticed. When they don't feel fully heard, they begin to hold parts back. Not everything feels safe to say anymore, so they choose what to share. Over time, silence becomes more familiar, so they keep more than they tell. And I didn't notice when that balance changed. I didn't lose my child. They are still here, just quieter around me. What's gone is the ease we used to have. Trust isn't something fixed. It grows in small, daily ways, and it can fade just as quietly. I can't force him to talk, but I can change how I respond. Maybe that's where it begins. It won't change overnight. It takes time to rebuild what faded slowly. I have to be patient with that. I don't know how long it will take, but I want to try, while there's still space between us, before it turns into distance I can't reach. I started with something small, sitting next to him a little longer than usual. Not because I had something to say, just because I didn't want to leave yet. I didn't ask questions right away. I let the silence stay as it was. It felt unfamiliar, but not uncomfortable. I began sharing small pieces of my day. Nothing important, just simple things. I spoke without expecting anything back. He listened without saying much. I noticed he stayed close. That felt like enough for now. A few days later, something changed. He added a small detail to his day. It was brief, but I noticed it. I didn't follow up with more questions. I just listened and let it pass naturally. I wanted him to feel safe, not examined. I learned to hold myself back, to not fix, not rush, not lead the moment. It was quieter this way, but more honest. Slowly, he began to open up again. Not all at once, but in his own way. And I found myself learning to wait. I used to think honesty needed to be taught directly, but now I see it grows from something quieter, from a place that feels safe enough to open up. Safety doesn't come from what I say in one moment. It builds quietly through repeated experiences, small moments that feel consistent and steady. When I stay present without reacting too quickly, something shifts. The space feels softer between us. Trust begins to form in that quiet space. I realize now that trust doesn't respond well to pressure. It doesn't hurry just because I want it to. It settles slowly at its own pace. Every response I give leaves a trace. Even the smallest reactions shape what comes next, whether they choose to speak or stay quiet. Often I don't notice what I'm teaching in those moments. It's hidden inside ordinary interactions. Quiet lessons, repeated without intention. Listening without rushing feels simple on the surface, but it asks me to slow down in ways I'm not used to, and maybe that's where love quietly deepens. The changes are not loud or immediate. They settle quietly into everyday life, but their weight stays longer than I expected. I can't control everything anymore. That realization feels quieter than I expected, but I can choose how I show up, and that feels like a place to begin. I'm learning to slow down my reactions, to let silence stay a little longer, to make space before I respond. I don't ask him to explain anymore. I don't push for answers. I just try to be a place that feels safe when he's ready. Things didn't change overnight. There was no big moment, just small shifts that felt almost easy to miss. I started noticing the small things first. The way he looks at me a little longer. The way he stays a little closer. It feels like we're rebuilding something. Not what it used to be. Something quieter but more honest. It's not perfect, and I don't expect it to be. It doesn't move quickly. But it feels real in a way I trust. And somehow, that's enough for me now. Not because everything is fixed, but because we are moving again, together. These days, I choose to listen a little longer. I let moments settle before I respond. And somehow, that quiet space feels more honest. I don't always understand everything anymore. There are parts of his world I cannot see. But I'm learning that presence matters more than knowing. Maybe children are not looking for perfect answers. Maybe they just need a place that feels steady, a place they can return to without hesitation. If you've ever felt this quiet distance too, you're not alone in it. Some lessons arrive slowly, without clear beginnings, and we grow into them, little by little. I'm Clara, and this is just a small part of my journey. If you feel like staying, you're welcome here. We can take our time and grow as we are.